Mr. Joe Biden, he thinks spending money is reducing inflation, but it's quite the opposite. It actually exacerbates inflation. And he passed this $80 billion bill, right? Apparently to reduce inflation, but it's not going to reduce inflation. And in this bill, he provided the IRS, or the Internal Revenue Service, with $80 billion in funding. And he said that this funding is going to allow the agency to serve the taxpayers. Wow, it's going to allow them to serve the taxpayers, which means it's going to allow
what were they doing before
them
that?
to
Were they serving
actually
taxpayers before? So, oh, sorry about that. I was going to say, what were they doing before that? Were they weren't serving taxpayers before, and now they are going to? Like, what the fuck? What is this guy talking about?
I don't think you can, count an agency that's taking money from you. I don't think you would say that's serving. Usually, when you serve somebody, right, you're washing their feet, you're doing it for free. You're at service to them, not you're taking money from that person. That's not being at service. But yeah, he said basically that this infusion of cash, $80 billion, a huge sum of money, is going to allow the IRS to basically enforce their tax laws and their tax codes more efficiently, and it's going to help them basically go after high net worth individuals. We already know this is not true. High net worth individuals, they already get audited every year. Large corporations are already getting audited every year. This is going to basically allow them to have more money to go after the common man and the common folks. And they're still behind. With COVID, they still didn't process like 10 million returns from 2021. They're still working on that. I don't know how they still a year behind. They're such a dysfunctional organization. And they said basically Janet Yellen came into the scene, and she said, "Oh, this money is going to allow us to basically form this AI service so that we can have like robocalls, and if people want to call the IRS to ask them questions." I don't know anybody who's calling the IRS to ask them questions about like the taxes and everything like that. You have to be very uneducated if you don't know how to file out a tax return. I never even heard that before. And they're going to be making these like call centers. That sounds like a total waste of money to me. They're basically forming new technology systems, and they're going to be hiring these more employees, to replace the retiring workers, 50,000 IRS workers. So all this seems like, a whole big waste of money. Doesn't seem like it's going to pay off. They're going to be auditing more people. They're going to be doing this and that. And this is just so, the Democrats are doing this so that they can basically spend more money as they like to do. They just can't stop spending. They're like a woman in a Gucci store, a woman in a Prada store. They have to spend that money, and they just can't stop. So they'll do anything to basically raise more money. If the man they're with doesn't make enough money to get them the next purse, they dump them and they get somebody else. That's what the IRS is doing. They're trying to collect more funds so that they can keep spending their money.
It's such a good analogy, though. It's like honestly pretty factual. But yeah, the thing with the IRS is like they're pretty incompetent, and a lot of people are afraid of them, and rightfully so, because there really are two ways the IRS can go after you. If they claim that there is material underpayment of taxes, they can only go back 7 years. That's the statute of limitations. And that's of 25% or more material underpayment. Now, if they say that and it's 8 years, you're like, oh, well, I'm going to get off. Like, they're not going to come after me. But what they do is then they just go, oh, tax fraud. And the reason why they just throw that around is because there is no statute of limitations. So they could theoretically go back as far as they want. The other thing is they can come up with whatever fucking number they want, because the reality of it is this. Most people, when they're in a situation and they're filing their taxes, do you really think they're going to save 30 years of tax returns? Probably not. So if someone wants to go after you, they could just go back 10 or 15, 20, fucking 30 years, whatever, and they'll go after you and say, in 1985, you paid us 10 million and you were supposed to pay us 11. And then they go, well, then you got to add in interest and all this shit. And then they come up with like a $20 million number or whatever the fuck that they say that you owe them. And we see the IRS get like politicized and weaponized against, people who have dissenting opinion from whoever is, running the country, and whatever faction has the majority in Congress and in government. So it happens all the time and it's a dirty game. It's played on both ends of the political spectrum. But yeah, the IRS, getting this money, this 80 billion or whatever, it's really not going to help them because, people who don't pay taxes or very wealthy people who pay, very little in taxes, they're smart. They have the best accountants. They have the best understanding of the tax law. They know the Internal Revenue Code inside and out. And if you look at the system and the way it's set up, it's very simple. The way the tax code is set up, it is set up to incentivize you to create a business, to take chances, to start opportunities for people in the form of hiring, in the form of PP&E, that's property, plants, and equipment, in the form of investing into worker productivity, in the terms of investing into the capital markets. And if you take advantage of that stuff, you end up paying less in taxes. And people have a fucking shit fit when I say that, but that's just what it is. Business owners assume more risk inherently because they're putting their own capital on the line. They're putting their own assets on the line to start a business and to choose to employ people. Employees don't take a risk. Therefore, they get kind of the shit end of the stick. They get taxed at the highest rate. They get taxed at anywhere from 30 to 35% when you combine state and federal taxes. And businesses pay very little because if you have, some type of flow through entity like an LLC, an S corp, or even like a sole prop or a partnership or limited partnership, the losses and gains will flow through to the personal returns. So a lot of times the business write-offs that you're entitled to, for being an employer and for taking that chance in opening and operating your business, you get a lot of tax breaks that flow through to your personal return. And these people, they have a shit fit about it, and they go, yeah, you didn't pay his fair share. But it's like, this guy also employs 50,000 fucking people. Like Warren Buffett talks about it all the time about how he pays very little in taxes relative to and that's as a percentage, of course, compared to his secretary. Like his secretary is taxed at a higher rate than him. Yeah, because all of his money comes from fucking qualified dividends where he pays long-term capital gains taxes of 20%. So, and then you pay another 3.8 or 2.8. And that's like the, something like the investment income tax or some bullshit that they came up with a few years back to get more money out of people. But the whole point is he pays 24% or whatever, and he lives in fucking Omaha, Nebraska, so the tax rates there aren't bad. They're really cheap. So, it's this whole thing where people, they just keep complaining, but it's you need to educate yourself and you need to look at the system and realize that you're incentivized to invest into American infrastructure, whether that's in the form of creating your own business and employing people, or like I said, investing in capital markets. So, the IRS having their own little hit squad is cute, but I don't think it's going to change much of anything. I think the biggest offenders of people who don't really pay taxes, it's they're using legal means or they're just putting money offshore, and there's not really anything that the IRS can do because it's outside of their jurisdiction. So it's tough fucking luck, man. So in terms of spending and the IRS kind of going crazy, yeah, I like your point that you made about buying the Gucci bags. Those Gucci bags, they don't fundraise themselves. You gotta make some money and figure out how to do it.
That's right. You always got to look for funding.